From Washington, D.C. to the heart of America, welcome to Mark Alford's America. I'm freshman congressman from Missouri, Mark Alford, and I believe in America. I believe in you, and most importantly, I believe that our greatest days are still ahead of us. You know, each week we take it behind the scenes to share the stories, the news, the legislation, and to meet the great people whom I work with each and every day, helping shape our nation. One of those is Congressman Nathaniel Moran from the 1st District of Texas. Nathaniel went to the United States Military Academy at West Point for 2 years, then transferred to Texas Tech. He earned a BA in Russian language and area studies and MBA. He also has his law degree. He served on the Tyler City Council from 2005 to 2009 as mayor pro tem, and he moved to Houston for his son's specialized education for deaf students. Later, he returned to Tyler to practice law. In 2016, he was appointed as Smith County Judge, where he managed multiple judicial and administrative roles. He's a father of 4. He's been married since 1999 to his wife, Keena, and he's here right now on our couch in room 1516 Longworth. Nathaniel, or Judge, as I like to call you, welcome to our office in the Mark Alford's America.
Thanks, Mark, and it's great to be here with you. And I just want to reaffirm, too, I love the opening statement because I believe in America, too. There's a lot of folks that are despondent about what's going on in our nation, and certainly we've got some things to change. But I'll tell you, there's hope in America. There's hope because we've got a great cadre of freshmen that are doing really wonderful work, that are dedicated to those faith, family, and freedom values, and are sticking together and are doing the day-to-day grind work that most people don't see on TV.
What do you think makes America so special in its own right?
I talk about this frequently when I talk about what does it mean to be an effective conservative. And I think that goes back to what makes America special, and that is it's rooted in the natural law of God, that Judeo-Christian ethic that comes out of our Holy Scripture that funnels up to our Constitution. Our Constitution is founded and rooted in that natural law of God and those Judeo-Christian principles. And that's what separates us from everything else, because we are a nation of liberty founded on a gospel of liberty. And if we weren't founded on that gospel of liberty, then we would not have the freedoms and the liberty and the decisions and the choices and the greatness that we enjoy today in this republic.
What made you want to take Russian in college?
Yeah, years ago, when I was in the military academy, those 2 years, we were asked to choose a language our sophomore year, and I'd had enough of Spanish in Texas growing up, and I didn't want to study French. And I thought, I really need to be in touch with an adversary. And when I was in high school, I did an exchange program to Russia. So I began to study Russian as a minor at West Point, figured out I was pretty good at it, that I enjoyed it. When I went to Texas Tech, then I made that my major, knowing that eventually I was going to get into law. Now, I thought I would use Russian when I came out, maybe do foreign service work or State Department work or something of that nature, but ultimately stayed in Texas. And I'm going to tell you, there's not a lot of people in East Texas that speak Russian.
Yeah.
So over the past 25 years since I got out of school, of course, the language skills have gone down, but the lessons I learned studying Russian and studying in Russia as part of the degree program at Texas Tech when I studied in Moscow, I think really prepared me for dealing with big issues now on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Well, because you understand the motives behind what's happening in Ukraine and across the world, and you understand more, I think, Putin's mindset. When you look at Putin and what he's doing, you understand that it's really a return to that old Soviet greatness. And if you go back over the great leaders of Russia and Soviet times, they are always looking to expand that territory and expand what they believe is their entitlement to more land than really what is encompassed in their borders. And so they want to have that worldwide influence that they've had for hundreds of years, and quite frankly, they don't have it anymore economically or in a lot of different militarily. We're seeing that even struggling against Ukraine, but they want to return to that greatness. And they're not going to stop until we stop them from getting that.
How do we do that? Because we've already authorized $113 billion, $67 billion of that for direct military assistance. The president has very little of that left today. He turned over another $200 million to Zelensky, who is in town. I don't know about your district. If it's like my district, people want our border secure first here in America before we give any more money.
Yeah, the Ukraine issue is a very difficult issue, just like as you mentioned. And here's why. Because I don't think anybody, when you poll them in America or in a district, say, you know what, I'd like for Russia to win this conflict. I don't think anybody really wants Russia to win the conflict. What the problem is we're not handling our domestic responsibilities first. And we should be. We should be securing our borders. Absolutely. We should be reducing our spending, because when we reduce our spending and not every dollar going overseas is a new dollar in debt, when we're in a position of financial freedom in this country, then we can help our allies better and more efficiently than we currently are. Now, that having been said, we're either going to spend $1 today or we're going to spend $10 tomorrow, and possibly in the future have our own soldiers on the line with NATO countries being involved in this conflict. So I don't think that we have a strategic choice other than to make sure that Russia loses this conflict. Does that mean give Ukraine cash? No. I'm not in for giving them cash. Bombs and bullets? Absolutely. From my perspective, I think the great strategy is being strong, steady, and strategic in the way that we do foreign policy to avoid unnecessary military conflict. But if we don't step into this vacuum that's there right now, where we see regimes of totalitarianism and the rise, what I call the axis of authoritarianism, that rise of axis between North Korea and China and Russia and Iran, that's having influence in this world. It's having influence because the U.S. is adopting policies of isolationism.
Oh, we look weak too under Biden.
We are, and we look weak, and that's what happened. Biden's withdrawal of Afghanistan precipitated the invasion of Ukraine. If we don't stop this madness in Ukraine, not at any cost, again, we don't want to just send cash without understanding where our investment is going. But if we don't stop it, we're going to have a bigger problem in Taiwan and China. That's going to spread to a bigger problem with South Korea and North Korea. And we're already seeing those issues spill over with Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran against Israel. It's going to continue until we are strong.
But I think, and you may disagree with me, but the voters, the constituents deserve an answer as to what does victory look like for Zelensky, not specific strategy, but an unclassified definition of what is victory. Is it taking back Donbass? Is it taking back Crimea, going back to the pre-1991 border? And how much is it going to cost, and how long will it take?
That's right. Our voters and the taxpayers absolutely deserve those answers. There's no question about that. We ought to be pressing for that. And in this immediate decision-making process where we're talking about whether or not we send more foreign aid to Ukraine or not, or we at least gin up our defense industrial base to build more bombs and bullets and send them over there, I think we absolutely need to stand firm on our ground to say, without border security, it's not coming. Because we have to prioritize border security and our domestic issues first. I completely agree. When we go back to your first statement, we have to do that first before we start taking care of anybody else's issues abroad.
What else keeps you up at night being on foreign affairs?
Well, when you look at the threat from China, it is not just a threat economically, which we're seeing across the world. We saw it in the BRICS convention where they're talking about trying to replace the dollar. We've known they're trying to do that. But it's not just economically. It's not just from foreign diplomacy where they're using their economic might to affect foreign policy of South American and African countries and to dominate critical supply chains in both of those regions. And they're doing it very quietly, and they've been doing it for a number of years, and now we're being boxed out of that. But now it's a military issue, too, because, now we're looking at China with naval vessels exceeding more than 400 naval vessels, surface vessels, when we have just about 300. That was not the case 10 years ago when we had more naval vessels than them. And as a result of our complacency and not really investing in our defense industrial base and not allowing them to produce at the levels they need to, take Ukraine off the board. We were not prepared, and we are not prepared for a conflict with China, and they know it. And as a result of that, because we're not prepared, then we may be forced into a conflict with China.
It would be a sea war. What would that mean to commerce in America?
It would be total destruction to our commerce in America, because when you look at the Straits of Taiwan and how much commerce comes through there that actually gets to the United States, it would be devastating to our stock market, to people's retirement accounts, to, frankly, if they got Taiwan, to the high level chips that we use in everyday life with our vehicles, with our computers, with our farm equipment, with everything that's important to your constituents and mine. We can't just put our head in the sand and pretend like this is not a problem. It is a big problem, and we have to be strong again. We have to stand strong. If we do not stand strong, the conflict is coming.
Some scary thoughts. I've heard one estimate that 65% of the world's goods that we get come through the Straits of Taiwan and South China Sea. It would make the Great Depression look like a cakewalk.
That's right.
5% of the goods that you now see on your store shelves would actually be there if we got into a war with China.
That's right. And those Southeast Asian countries, Indo-Pacific countries that we have good partnerships with currently are tied economically to China. Their foreign policy, their military policy is bound to change if China is the dominant economic power in this world.
We're talking with Nathaniel Moran from the 1st District of Texas. So glad you're here. We're going to be back, and we're going to talk about the border. The border is a huge issue. Every state is a border state, not just Texas. We're also going to be talking about the Biden crime family because you're on the Judiciary as well. Mark Alford's America continues after this. Welcome back to Mark Alford's America, where we give you a behind-the-scenes look at Washington, let you meet some of the fantastic people helping shape our nation. And today we're talking with Congressman, my friend from Texas, Nathaniel Moran. My parents used to live outside of Tyler in Noonday Onions. You've been through there?
I have. In fact, Noonday is about 4 minutes from my house.
Really?
It is. I live just down the road from Noonday and travel those roads almost every day I'm back.
When Leslie and I got married in Waco, Texas in 1989, we had, I think, 100 dozen Tyler roses brought in. They're small little roses. They're not like big roses you would get at the grocery store, but my dad's a native of Tyler, so anyway, it's a beautiful little town.
Tyler's a great place. It's the green part of Texas. We have pine trees, lakes, azaleas, roses. We're known for our roses, known as the rose capital of the world, largest municipal rose garden in the world. We have a rose festival every year, and in April and October you can come visit when they're blooming, and it's just a beautiful place.
And one connection you may not know from Kansas City, R.L. Long, who is a lumber baron from Kansas City, got a lot of his timber from down there in the piney East Texas woods, and Longview, Texas is named after him.
I did not know that, but timber is one of our big industries there, oil and gas as well, but it's a diverse location. The congressional district that I serve is 17 counties. It goes up to Oklahoma, over to Arkansas, down the Louisiana border. It's a big area, bigger than the state of New Jersey.
Wow. Let's talk about the border issue because you've been down there. I've been down there several times. When you go down there, it is much worse than it's being portrayed on television. There's no way to capture the chaos that the biggest liar since Pinocchio, Secretary Mayorkas, say is really not chaos. We know there's chaos. We know there's a problem. Why do you think the Biden administration does not want to admit they're a problem and do something about it?
Well, up until recently, I don't think that they've had to because most folks north of those southern border states didn't really realize how bad of an issue it was. And they weren't impacted by it. As we see the influx of fentanyl, though, that's affecting all of our country, as we see illegal immigrants migrate further north and into some of the bigger cities, the liberal cities in particular, and those folks feel the effect of that, then there's beginning to be this pinch back to the president to say, hey, there actually is a problem. And I think it's a matter of his base. You know, a lot of his base want to turn a blind eye to that because they don't want to believe that we need to shut down those borders. They think that somehow that's inhumane to do that. But in fact, it's opposite. It's a humanitarian position to take to say we need law and order along the border. We need sovereign borders in our nation to be able to be the greatest nation on earth because we're the most giving nation on earth. And the more prosperous we are here in this United States, the better we can help and serve our neighboring countries and those folks around the world. We can't do that if we simply just say anybody can come in. We don't do that as individuals. We have good fences make good neighbors. That's what we say in Texas. And I love my neighbors. But I don't have a right to just walk on their property anytime I want, get in their refrigerator, and begin accessing their food and accessing their house in any way that suits me. And I think, likewise, any country would do the same thing or should do the same thing.
For those listening in Kansas City, one of the biggest shocks from me moving from Texas to Kansas City in 1998, there are not a lot of fences between yards. Everyone in Texas has a 6-foot privacy fence. And so it took me a while to get used to that, just kind of a oddity difference between the Midwest and Texas. Let's talk a little bit about Hunter Biden. You're on Judiciary Committee. What a mess. This guy, I call him the prodigal son with no remorse. If you look at the story of the Bible, prodigal means extravagant. He lived this very extravagant lifestyle. He spent like $800,000 on hookers, no telling how much on drugs, got millions of dollars channeled through the Biden crime family. And now we're seeing that some of it is directly linked to Joe Biden when he was vice president.
Yeah, and as the prodigal son, he has not yet found his redemptive time where he's been in that pigsty and in that pig trough and realized the error of his ways. And I think that's what's most concerning to me. And when I shake my head, that the president is protecting his son, knowing that his son is a wayward son, done tons of stuff. And in fact, the president has enabled him and participated in that. And as a result of that we didn't start out with this whole project of following the evidence because we wanted to predetermine the outcome. We simply followed the evidence in judiciary. That's been our whole goal from the very beginning, is just follow the evidence, make sure that the process is fair, that if the turnabout were to come against a Republican sitting president, that we would appreciate the process given to that person at that time. And so we've been trying to do that. But the due diligence of fact gathering has led us to the conclusion that it looks like there's been bribery that's happened. As vice president and now cover up in the presidency in this current state, we cannot ignore that. The Constitution says that officers shall be removed. It says shall be removed for bribery.
It say could be.
It doesn't say could be or maybe. It says shall be. So I feel like we have a constitutional responsibility to move forward, even if it's something we don't want to do politically. And trust me, politically, I don't think it does us any good to remove President Biden, because then we're looking at President Harris. I don't know that that's something that any of us politically want to see happen.
You get rid of Tweedledee, you got Tweedledum.
That's exactly what happens. So nobody can say this is politically motivated, because it's not as though we're gonna switch out President Biden for somebody that we want. It's that we feel like it's a constitutional mandate. We must follow the evidence and do what the Constitution asks us to do.
Plus, when you look at how compromised this president may be because of his son and the money that's come into the Biden crime family, and you're talking about Xi Jinping, who he considers a friend almost, that's scary.
Yeah, it is. It is scary, absolutely. And it gives pause to any of the policies that we've been engaging with China from the administration. Same with Iran and the Hamas-Hezbollah issue. You see members of the administration presently that have ties to Iran. They're holding back against Iran because of that. You wonder what kind of influence behind the scenes is happening. And frankly, I mean, we talked about Ukraine earlier. I'm concerned about the ties to Ukraine and the kickbacks that have happened over the years to Ukraine. And I've told the folks in Europe that exact issue, that we have grave concerns, and they're real concerns. There's substantive concerns based on facts, that we got to be careful with our relationship and our dealings with Eastern Europe. We absolutely have to.
This has been a tumultuous year. We're freshmen. We've been here 11 months. I never thought we would make history like we have. Not all of it good. It took 15 times votes to get Kevin McCarthy elected as Speaker, and then he gets fired. And history has been made, but it's not been a great 11 months. But I think we have made some gains. H.R. 2, the Secure Border Act, the aid for Israel that's sitting over in the Senate side right now. What do you think is your biggest accomplishment, or our biggest accomplishment this year?
As a group, I'll talk about us as a group. I think that these are growing pains for us. I talk to my teenagers. I've got 4 kids, but my teenagers, the older ones, they're trying to work out on occasion, try to be physically better. And when they do that, they're sore because they're working muscles they haven't worked before. I feel like that's this year for us in Congress. We're working some muscles we've never worked in generations or decades. And as a result of that, we've got a lot of pains, a lot of soreness, and maybe a little crying from here and there, but it will make us better. It will make us stronger. And next year will be the proving ground for us, is have we turned the corner? Are we going to set different precedent next year as a result of the tumult that we've gone through this year? I hope so. I hope the appropriations process next year is what we intended for it to be this year.
Right.
And it better be. And if it's not, I think that there's going to be another gnashing of the teeth, as it were.
Another day of reckoning.
That's right.
We've got to get these appropriation bills passed before we leave to go back and work in the district in August. That's as simple as I could put it. Would you?
That's right. I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't know why we didn't do that this year. Absolutely have to do that next year. There won't be an excuse if we don't.
Well, Nathaniel, thank you so much, Judge, for being with us today at Mark Alford's America. It's truly an honor to know you, be your friend. I look forward to many more years here working with you to make America better.
Thank you, Mark. Best to you.
Hey, that's it for this week's edition of Mark Alford's America. Thank you so much for being with us today. We'll talk again next week. Until then, remember, I believe in you. I believe that our best days are still ahead of us as a nation. I believe in America. God bless you.